You are a little bit closer.
Okay. Yeah, we're live. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Connect Africa. Here we are, the whole week now, finally, Friday. We are here again with you every day, bringing you the updates on Niger and, major events outside the continent that impacts Africa. For today again, we have updates on Niger, uh, particularly President William Ruto's speech, whom we haven't heard uh, from him, or even, Kwame was mentioning yesterday, and any Eastern African community, except that the Burundi president participated in the meeting. We haven't heard anything from them, but Ruto has spoken. So what does it mean? The resolution we have talked about the standby force when it came out. I think the day before yesterday. But again, we go further, one step ahead, and what could be the possible outcomes. What does it mean then also for Africa? We will discuss that, and a topic that we have never touched, but seems strolling, and which is the LGBTQ, the anti-LGBTQ bill by African countries, and then how the the so-called international community is punishing African countries for their anti-LGBTQ bill. So we're gonna touch up on that, particularly on Uganda. So we have here Kwame Gonza. Welcome, Kwame.
Thank you very much, Mahlet. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, thank you very much. And greetings to everyone who's watching us. We welcome you very much. And we are back here. We've been here the whole week. We are changing how we are operating at Connect Africa here, the media platform. As an organization, we have other arms of the organization which are doing different types of work, advocacy, but even revolutionary work of organizing the whole African continent and the African people, starting with the progressive forces, those who are willing to work for the advancement of the African continent, especially the Pan-Africanist organizations, putting them together, and the individuals. And on the other side, also, we are working with the progressive governments across the continent. We want to weld this force together. We believe this is our mission because we believe that we are a chosen generation as African people, and the young people of this generation. This is our job, as we are seeing tremendous events going on and happening across the world. It shows you that we are not living in normal times, and the things cannot be business as usual. And one of those things which we are doing, of course, Mahlet has been mentioning them here, working with the Pierre Lumumba Foundation, working with Africans Rising, Global African Congress, a lot of other organizations, we are working with them. Africa Continental Unity Party, all these, we come together and we deliberate on how we should take our continent forward. Now, today being the issue of Niger and the chaos that is going on, whereby the Europeans, the United States want to cause chaos in Africa, the same chaos they have been causing in the Middle East, and now they have turned it towards Africa. We have also risen to that challenge, and we have decided to do something about it. And one of those things is that we are putting together a team of African elders to be able to work with us so that Pan-Africanism, as we spoke about it yesterday, Pan-Africanism itself also can be able to intervene in this situation. You never know, we could come up with a solution, and Pan-Africanism needs, what we are saying is that Pan-Africanism needs to start acting on a very serious note. And now on the other side, we have started a hashtag on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, I've put it in the comment section, in the chat section, and I'll put it also in the comment section. Boycott colonial businesses. boycott colonial businesses, the hashtag. You can go out on Twitter, you find it. So if you move with this hashtag, it will be very important for us. We want to mobilize people to boycott European businesses, American businesses, of course, starting with France. We have a lot of businesses which France has, the European have in Africa. So we want to send a very clear message because we understand that this is the language they understand. We have come to the realization that this is the language which they understand. They only understand the language of confrontation. So we want also to meet them where they are so that we can show them that we also have certain tools which we can apply. So go out there and move with this hashtag. I've already put it in the chat section and I'll continue to put it so that other people, it is on Twitter, but you can decide also, we will put it also on Facebook and you can go out there and move that hashtag so that we can send a very, very clear message. Mahlet has mentioned, we are going to talk about the updates, where we stopped yesterday and what has transpired since then. Then we will talk about the situation of President Ruto. He came out also to support Niger and Ecowas, of course, which was a shock. I mean, he came out to support Ecowas's activities in Niger, which was quite a shock for us because we are people who have believed in him, looking at the steps he started with. He started as a very good president. So when he came out to support Ecowas and the African Union in its attack on Niger, it came as a shock to us. So we want to talk about it, and we can't leave it to go like that. We think that these leaders have to be consistent. They have to eliminate these contradictions from their ideological understanding. So this, we are going to talk about it. Now, number 3 is we will talk about also the attacks, the colonial attacks by the IMF and World Bank and the groups, all groups of Europeans and American groups who are attacking African countries that have stood up against imported cultures into Africa, like gayism and lesbianism into the continent. Now, on top of that, we will mention a little bit about neocolonialism, because last time we spoke about neocolonialism and many people were asking, how does neocolonialism work? And we gave you a chapter to go and read, a chapter in neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, which Nkrumah wrote, and it is called The Mechanisms of Neocolonialism. So we will touch it because this is the very basic example of how neocolonialism operates. Because you have a financial institution in the West, a very good example, which is the very World Bank, which is dominated by the United States and Europe, as we have seen. They are saying they will not give a loan just because we have differed with them in thinking on cultural issues. So you can see that now they are intervening in our culture using a financial institution. So this is the classic example of imperialism or neocolonialism as we were talking about it. This is how they use it. So we will touch on that a little bit. Mahlet, back to you.
Thank you, Kwame, for elaborating on the talking points for tonight. So yeah, let's go into it. Let's start with updates from Niger. Now, we have talked about, I think the day before yesterday, when the Ecowas had that emergency meeting which they said there are 3 things that came out, that they are open for still they will exhaust diplomatic means, and then there was something in the middle, but the 3rd one was they will put their force on standby since the coup leaders have refused to reinstate the ousted president. Now, what has transpired after that? What we have seen yesterday is that it's after even our streaming was over, we have seen President Ruto talking, actually supporting ECOWAS, and it kind of confused me. I don't know if other people share my view. Sometimes he talks like Kenya, but sometimes I see him talking like the African Union, but the African Union itself did not release any statement. And Ruto has no position right now in the African, he's not the chairman or anything. So I don't know if that is a position of Kenya or the African Union. So if what is it really because we kind of said maybe this is ECOWAS is trying to save its own face, but is it going to happen? What are the possibilities right now on the ground, and if so, what should we look out? What does it mean for the region, for Africa? Yeah, please. You can combine here, but we can look at it also separately.
Yeah, so the events of yesterday, of course, a lot of us, they came as a shock. As you saw yesterday, even my mood was not very good because of the way we love our people. You know, we love our continent. I think at least we have some people on this continent who love it. I will not say I love it. I love this continent more than anybody else, but I love our continent and I love our people. You know, I love our people all across the world. So when we have this kind of aggression happening all across the African continent against the African people by these foreign forces, then, you know, it becomes hurtful. It becomes very painful to a very big extent. So there is two scenarios about the resolutions of yesterday. And of course, they insisted that they are going to carry out diplomacy, but at the same time, they say they have put the military, the ECOWAS intervention force, on alert. So there is two scenarios that are likely to come out of this. Number one, what we see is that there may be the fact that it is possible they may want to attack knowingly with the help of the United States in the back and the Europeans. I think we've mentioned this a little bit, quite a little bit in the past. The United States may back them militarily in the air because Niger doesn't have very strong military assets or air defense systems to be able to prevent the United States from violating its airspace. And of course, a few days ago, we have heard that France was violating the airspace in Niger. Even it went inside the country and released terrorists from prisons. So there is that scenario that ECOWAS may work directly with these imperialists because they already have air power. And like we mentioned, they even have drones in Niger itself. And there's still foreign troops in Niger from the United States, some from France, even though France has been given about 30 days to vacate Niger by the government in Niger, the current government in Niger. They have been given 30 days. But that is the scenario that we are seeing, that ECOWAS forces may attempt to enter. Those forces may have Nigeria, of course, who is now leading the gang. They may have Senegal. They may have Ivory Coast, because we know that Ivory Coast is an absolute puppet, a useless puppet, and very dangerous for the African people. I mean, the Ivory Coast president, I'm not meaning the Ivory Coast people, but the president, Al-Hassan Ouattara, is an absolute puppet of the West of France. So they may attack with that group of 4 countries, and of course, any other country which is likely to join them. But these are the countries which have come out, Senegal, Nigeria, and Ivory Coast, and spoken absolutely in absolute terms that they will join and go into to destabilize Niger. So they may go and they may be backed by the Europeans because they have so much interest at stake. Apart from the resources, as we have seen in Niger, the uranium, the gold, the oil, there is also what is at stake of the oil pipeline, which they have been, or they are in the process of constructing, which they want to deliver the gas as an alternative to the gas was being delivered from, that was being delivered from Russia, which was cut off by themselves, not Africans. So they want to use now African gas from Nigeria to cover the gas which they lost or which they boycotted by themselves that was coming from Russia. So they want to use African gas from Nigeria, pass it through Niger, and pass it through Algeria and send it to Europe and consume cheap African fuel because they have a corrupt regime in Nigeria and the other countries where they want to take the gas from. So Europe feels that it is going to die, the people are going to die of cold, or the energy prices in Europe are going to skyrocket by thousands and thousands of euros if they don't get this cheap gas. So they see this as a matter of life and death. So those are the situations that we are facing as Africans. Now, the second situation which we are seeing that might happen, it may be possible that Nigeria and Ecowas is bluffing. That is a possibility, that they are bluffing and they are trying to save their faces because they set a deadline which expired. Now we are coming to 2 weeks, which expired last weekend, and they had not been able to restore the former president, Bazoum. I call him former president because he's no more the president right now. And we have a new, a new government in Niger already. So it is possible that the ECOWAS may be bluffing just to face save. And that is why they say we should put the military on standby instead of saying we are sending the military straight away. Because they said that, if you hear what they said yesterday, they said that all the options have been exhausted. And if all those options were exhausted, that the government in Niger refused to negotiate with them on diplomatic terms, then, of course, it was time to come and then fulfill your ultimatums which you gave. You were supposed to go ahead and implement what you promised that you will attack. But we saw that after last weekend, they were not able to attack. They called this meeting. And even in this meeting, they were not able to resolve the issue of attacking, but rather they issued another threat of putting the military on standby. So what this means is that it may be another threat to try to intimidate the government in Niger. And of course, it may also be masking the fact that they are in fear of Niger joining forces together with Mali, Burkina Faso, and Algeria, which has said that it will back them on the other side. So this is also a possible scenario which could happen. And is likely that this is also another outcome from this. And on the other side also, of course, we have other ECOWAS partners have disagreed with a military intervention. We have seen Liberia, President George Weah criticized this intervention and said that within ECOWAS itself, people have carried out institutional coup. So he doesn't see the need for Liberia to be part of this. If you are talking about intervening because there was a coup, there has been constitutional coup in various countries and no one said anything. So this is a possible outcome. We saw that Ghana did not commit to putting up soldiers. Togo did not commit. Benin is part of those who had committed putting up troops, but it looks like the elders in Benin may have prevailed over the president because they think that they are related to the people in Niger, and it doesn't make sense to put up troops and go and bomb their own relatives. So this is another possibility. But of course, the African Union came out today with a statement. If you go to their Twitter handle, they came up with a statement around midday to support what ECOWAS is doing. And of course, President Ruto, who we are going to speak about also, came out to support this. And of course, this also becomes problematic. That means that if there is an attack on Niger, then it remains to be said that there's going to be a war, a very deadly war, a very catastrophic war, in which they have to fight against Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, with the support of Algeria, and of course the African people. There is some rumors which I've been hearing in the corners that many African youth are willing to go in and support in Niger. So it is not out of place that what someone mentioned a few days ago on YouTube and said, is Africa likely to become the new Middle East, may be coming true right now, because in the same way in the Middle East is because the Middle Eastern people did not accept colonialism from the United States and Europe. They had to take up arms and support those ones who were fighting against this brutality of the Europeans and the Americans and their colonialism. So it is likely to be even in Africa. That is why I somehow agree with someone who said that Africa is likely to become the new Middle East. And because the Europeans understand only the language of aggression, we may have to run them out of the continent together with those progressive governments who want to participate in this process. And we have to fight them together with their puppets and chase them out of the continent and rebuild it in a new way without neocolonialism. So these are the two likely outcomes. But I'm still more falling on the side of not there being an attack because of the consequences. If there is, reasoning, if sensibilities, if some sense is to prevail among the leaders, it is unlikely, there is unlikely to be an attack. But of course, they may be manipulated by the United States and Europe, because for them, they think that there is so much at stake for them. They are going to lose a lot. And for the United States, they do not learn. The imperialists never learn until they are born, they are defeated, until they are fought against and defeated, until they have started a war and they are defeated. That is the only way imperialists understand. So we may have to take up also arms and fight them out of the continent until the last imperialist and any supporter of this imperialism is put out of the continent. So those are the likely outcomes. But I'm still on the side of this unlikely to happen as a war in Niger. Thank you very much, Mahlet.
Thank you, Kwame, for that. And I would like to thank you also, our viewers here who are contributing, suggesting, commenting, everything. So really, really kudos for you. Thank you. We really appreciate it. And we learn from you as well. But one thing, welcome Anna, by the way, it's a new name for me here in the family of Connect Africa. I think it's a lie. She says, it's a lie. It's not about French people. It's about energy for bad experimental facilities like CERN. This is a European organization for nuclear research, I believe, who creates black holes and destroys the universe. It's not about...
So actually we, as a channel, we are not against the European people or the American people. But as you know, they have a government which represents. So we here, what we have is that we have France is the one which is carrying out aggression on us. Is the one carrying out. When you go to the Middle East, people don't say the French leaders are carrying out aggression. They say France. And even these French leaders or the colonial leaders when they are carrying out their sanctions, they do not discriminate between our leaders and the people themselves. I'll give you an example, Anna. When they are attacking Zimbabwe or Eritrea, they do not distinguish between the Eritrean people or the Zimbabwean people or anyone when they are carrying out sanctions, when they are putting sanctions. They put sanctions which punish everyone in the country. So we ourselves as Africans, we are not against the American people or the European people, but we also understand that we have a problem, we are in a dilemma, and we would like to work with those European people and those Americans who think that this system should be destroyed. And of course, there is those people, many of them exist in the United States. They exist in Canada, they exist all over in the European countries and the Western world, they exist. So those people, for us, we are open to working with them. But if it is concerning working in Africa, the African people have to take leadership. That is another point that has to be made very clear. We cannot allow the Western people to come in Africa and lead a revolution. We have learned that in a bad way in the past years when we were fighting for our freedom. So the African people, when it comes to fighting for Africa, have to lead, and our European partners or Western partners who want to participate in that process, they have to be under the leadership of the African people in fighting this. That is in Africa. But elsewhere across the globe, we can hold hands together and fight this system until we defeat it. So we are not, I repeat again, we are not against any European people or American people or any Western people, but we are against the system and their government which represents them. And so it is up to them to struggle against this system in their various countries as we struggle that system here, because it is oppressing us. It is stealing from us. This system is stealing our resources and spreading lies and huge propaganda, because they have a strong media machine which is bombarding us with a lot of lies and hoodwinking our people and lying to our people and confusing our people about what they are doing. And some of our people, they have been falling for this. Many of our people have been falling for these lies. And some of them have been even fighting against the African interests.
But I would like to add this. Isn't it like sometimes I see also a lot of ignorance, a complete ignorance by the, yes, we are not against the people, but people anyway will find a way to live together. If you put an African person and a white European person, they will always, they know how to live. They don't need any governance or anything. But in an era where there's a lot of information, there is also an ignorance that's coming from the people. Some of the things I don't think even the Africans have to speak about it, that they should be against their government, but you see that this complete ignorance and support for their system and defending it. But yeah, in any case, it's not about the people always. Let's go to our second question. Still, we are on Niger. Shocking the statement from Ruto. We even yesterday after the stream, we were to get on the phone. Me and Kwame were talking about it and listening Ruto's statement again and again. And where does this come? I mean, as a platform that that we have been supporting and rooting for him because of his Pan-African, he's a Pan-Africanist. He's one of, he's in the forefront ever since he came to power. But he's like, he has been on the driving seat. Even he was one of those charming leaders that even kind of captivated the attention of the African Union itself. And a lot of summits have happened since he came to power, but just in less than a year. Okay. Now he came out and says this. It's something unexpected. I don't know what to make of it. How do you view it?
Yeah, I think that leaders can have contradictions, but then there's a point at which those contradictions they become unbearable. And let me ask you to give me a second, Mahlet. You can first take over. Let me ask you to give me a second.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here, Kwame will join us quickly. I'm gonna go and interact with you guys. So I was part of the media machine in Germany. I had the journalist identity. Can I read it? Yeah, Christian Wirtz. I was expropriated and exchanged with an AI robot, and I think Africa is the hope of humanity. Okay. Um, do riot against their government. Yeah, we are proposing something really. We cannot just sit and see when Niger is attacked, when Niger is becoming a next Libya. We have to do something that we can support our people in Niger. Like, for example, here you have seen in the beginning in the comments here to boycott products of all these colonials that are now coming and trying to invade Niger. So it's something we're going to launch it properly on a Twitter, and we will share it with you. We will share our Twitter handle here. But if you have any idea also, when this stream is over, also you can contribute. But yeah, so Kwame, back to you.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that there's a point at which I think leaders can have contradictions. Everyone has contradictions as a human being, and that is what makes us who we are as humans, because we have what the Chinese call the yin and the yang. You have the good and the bad. You have good and the bad side. But there's a point at which the contradictions become so much and almost unbearable to the people who believe in you. Okay, so I remember that President Ruto, when he came to power a few months ago, because he came to power in February, that is when he was sworn in as a president. He charmed the continent, as you mentioned rightly. It's unfortunate that the word charming is not a very good word. It is some sort of like somebody lying to you. But he charmed us into believing that he's the man for the job of helping Africa move forward from this step to the next step. And of course, we did even some programs here where we asked and analyzed him as a person and his background as a leader and where he is coming from. Okay, so we did this out of the understanding that humans have different sides, but we also noted that we have to keep monitoring him. I think when we were finishing our show, we mentioned that we have to keep monitoring him to see how he goes, how he progresses, whether he will be able to take action on some of these ideas. And we particularly picked out the speech which President Ruto gave at the Pan-African Parliament. That was an absolutely powerful speech. The speech which he gave at the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa, it was an absolutely electric speech that everyone needs to go out and watch and listen to it. Why? Because it has solutions for the African continent. It has very big solutions, very serious solutions, very practical solutions for the African continent. But these solutions cannot be implemented if Africa is not stable. That is one thing. That is one thing. And some of those solutions which he mentioned is Africa working together on climate solutions, for example. When the West or the Western leaders are putting a lot of pressures on Africa, Africa should work together in coming up with a single policy on climate change. Now, when we talk about industrialization, which he said that if they are saying that they want Africa to switch to clean energy and not build things like pipeline, maybe use its hydrocarbons, then they should shift majority of their industries to Africa and help Africa to use clean energy to run those industries. And of course, we know that the Europeans and the Western people are unlikely, even the Chinese are unlikely to agree. They will not agree to this. We know this. But we also understand that we have to work together as Africans in achieving these. So this is a practical solution, but needs when the whole continent is working together. So everyone, when he gave these speeches, President Ruto, everyone was excited. If those who have watched that speech, and I encourage you to go to my channel called Africa Reimagined and check out that speech. Or Mahlet, you can look up that speech and put it out for our people so that they can see it in that section and they can watch that speech in full. The full speech, I have it on my channel. But again, when he came out and mentioned the support, at first, actually, he came out when the coup happened and criticized the coup in Niger immediately when it happened. He criticized it. And many of us actually were holding back and keeping quiet to first study and see the nature of the coup leaders. We wanted to understand, was this coup for the people, or was it a certain global power which is removing a leader? Because what these countries, especially in Africa, because we have many countries, in some situations, you are not paying attention to all the countries, okay? Like I would ask myself here today and all the people who are watching, who is the president of Cabo Verde today? Because we have a country called Cabo Verde, but even many Africans have never heard about it. Only very few Africans know that we have a country in Africa called Cabo Verde. But who is the president? So you have countries in Africa which you don't know about. So in this case, sometimes a coup may happen in a country like Guinea-Bissau. Before there was an attempted coup, not many of us knew who the president of Guinea-Bissau was. So if there's any coup in these countries, then you need to first watch and understand. If you are not familiar with the country, like famous countries like Egypt or South Africa, in those countries, you will know the stand of the president, or Ghana, these famous countries, Kenya, on the African continent, Algeria. You will know historically the stand of the position and the current position of that country, whether the country the president is a Pan-African president, is a very strong president. So you will know. But some of these countries which are very quiet and being exploited in silence, we will not know the president. So we need to step back whenever these commotions, these types of commotions happen, and we listen. When we listen and see what these cool guys, these cool leaders are saying, then we are able to make a judgment and understand whether this coup is for the people or there's a foreign government which is interfering in the country. So I think that this should have been the first thing. This should have been the approach that President Ruto should have taken, instead of coming out immediately to condemn, because this is the behavior of the African Union, Ecowas, and all the others. There's no waiting to analyze the situation and approach it in a desired manner or in a professional manner, in an analytic manner. We have to approach it in a manner which is very analytic. So this did not happen. So we noted that from President Ruto, and we were disappointed in his approach. Now, what we want also to mention is that if you love a person, there's people who have been saying, oh, you have been supporting President Ruto, he's a sellout and stuff like that. Of course, a lot of people have been saying that. But what I've been saying also is that if you support a leader, or if you support someone, if you love someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot criticize them. So if you have certain things which you love about President Ruto, it doesn't mean you cannot criticize him when he does something which is bad. Like, for example, sending 1,000 military, 1,000 police officers or military troops to Haiti. That is a wrong decision. And we were here and we criticized that. So if he does something like this also, we have to criticize him. Now, but we do not have to stop at criticizing him as Africans, as people who are saying that we have the solutions for the African continent. We also try to reach out to him. Maybe we write him, maybe we find a way. We find Kenyans who have So this, I think, should be our approach. And this is our approach here at Connect Africa. And we are going to reach out to President Ruto and write to him and show him that we are dissatisfied because of this and this reason. We think that this is how you should approach this situation. So President Ruto came out yesterday and he supported Ecowas, and he said that he supports the Ecowas's position in attacking Niger, which is very unfortunate, because we did not yesterday, there was, when the meeting was there in Abuja, the chairperson of the East African community was there in Abuja, who is the president of Burundi, President Ndashimiye. So, but he did not say anything. He has not said anything. An official statement from the East African community, I've not yet seen it. Maybe it is out there on Twitter, but I've not yet seen it. But the president or the chairperson of the the chairperson of the East African community himself has not said anything yet. So it is unfortunate that President Ruto came out to say this when he was in Mozambique. He's currently in Mozambique, where he's having a visit in Mozambique. So this, we see it as a contradiction in President Ruto's approach, and we would want him to change this, because there's supposed to be an analysis of the situation. Is this for the people, or is this a foreign interference? Because there's been many coups on the African continent. There's been many of them. There's been numerous. But on the other side also, democracy has been manipulated on this African continent to the point that every time African people ask for accountability, why there's no social and economic upward mobility, why our lives are not improving and our people are falling in the oceans, there's no answer which is given to us. But when people take matters in their hands, now we all of a sudden hear people raising the card of democracy. Yet this democracy has been manipulated. And that is why even the ruling class themselves, they have had contestations all the time, the opposition accusing the other of rigging the elections. So if they are contesting themselves within the ruling class and the political class, is there not a possibility that we are also seeing that the system has been manipulated and is rigged against us? Is President Ruto not aware that the African people know that this system is rigged against them? So these are the questions we are asking. So if he knows that this is the fact, this is the reality, then why did he come out and issue these type of statements and support for a group of people who are going to attack innocent African people? So I think that there's got to be a distinction. There's got to be an analysis which creates a distinction between a coup which is for the people and that which is not for the people. And I don't think this is very hard to do, especially if you are not taking money from the Europeans, especially if you are not the African Union who's taking money from the Europeans, especially if you are not Ecowas who's taking money from the Europeans. This should be simple. But it is not simple. This analysis is not simple because you are African Union, you are Ecowas, and you are the regional bodies who are taking money from the Europeans. So that's my analysis on President Ruto, and that is how I see him.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to our second topic for today is the increasing these financial institutions punishing or canceling loans, funds to African countries and maybe also globally, who are passing anti-LGBTQ law, or when you become controversial, when even there is a discussion about it also, they are trying to punish countries by canceling their loans. Now we have Uganda, Museveni, they have canceled the loan, the World Bank has canceled the loan to Uganda, and Museveni came out and spoke, and he said, actually, we will find a means locally. He said he will continue. He's not gonna bend down. Now there's also a discussion in Ghana, and there are other countries also in the continent. So how do you view this? The World Bank canceling the loan to Uganda, and then there is Museveni's response, and then now there is a talk in Ghana, where the U.S. ambassador is trying to threaten Ghana because it's under discussion, I believe, to pass the homosexuality bill following Uganda. So yeah, what's your comment on this?
Yeah, so I think this is the classic example of what neocolonialism is. We were discussing a few days ago, this very week, on neocolonialism and how it approaches, how it is working, because it works behind closed curtains. It works behind closed door, close the doors. Mm-hmm. And we mentioned that it is intertwined. Its institutions are intertwined. Yeah. We mentioned here very clearly, when you speak about the US military, you speak about CIA, you speak about MI6 of Britain, you speak about the French intelligence agency, you speak about Mossad of Israel. All these institutions are integrated in a certain way. Oil companies, their companies, the technology companies, Google and Facebook, we have seen how Facebook has been collecting information. And even when Elon Musk took over Twitter, information came out that Twitter was sharing information with the CIA and the FBI. There was a backdoor for the CIA and FBI. And of course, we believe even right now that it is still there. So these institutions in the West are integrated, and their purpose is to maintain a dominant Western system that that is purposely targeted at exploiting the African resources and the global South, Latin America, continuously. So anyone who threatens that system, they think that he must go. And of course, we can name a full list. I don't need to repeat it. The Saddams, the Gaddafis, and all these people. Any country, it will face destruction. Any country which tries to challenge that system. And of course, the justification is the human rights. So what we are seeing here is the same thing: culturally, socially, economically, security, media, all these are integrated into defending that system. And so that is what we are seeing now. What they want to achieve is the imposition of the European lifestyle on the Africans, and the Africans are refusing. So now they have integrated two institutions to enforce this. They have integrated the political machinery, like what we are seeing in Ghana. The ambassador of the United States to Ghana came out to issue statements in the media. I even don't know why they allowed her to issue in this, in the media. I don't know why they would allow her to even to make these kind of comments. I think some of these things should be off the limits. It should be made very clear to the United States and the Europeans that if you are coming here, this is our standard. Because even in Europe itself and even in the United States, there's a lot of American people who do not support gays, and they do not support homosexuality, and they do not support all these things, transgender and all that. This madness, they do not support it. And I've seen it myself that many of the American people and even politicians in the Congress, in the United States Congress, they do not support this. A lot of them, they do not support it. And they have come out in broad daylight and supported even President Museveni and said that they support the Ugandan people in their stand. And these have been American people. Some of them have been European people. So a few people who represent the Europeans, of course, they want to impose their values, the European values, and yet we have our own values. We are the first humans on this planet. So we have much more values than them who are trying to impose their values. So this is the problem which we are seeing now. They have integrated about 3 institutions. They have integrated the financial institution, which is the World Bank. They have integrated the political institution, which is the American political system and the European political system, and they have integrated their cultural system. the propagation of their culture, their cultural institution, which is to say that homosexuality is a normal thing. And so if we are propagating it in Europe and the United States, then everyone must accept it. And this is what the Africans are saying no. And so that is why you see that they came after President Museveni to say that Uganda passed an anti-homosexuality bill. And this passed through the constitution. It was not the decree of the president. So what we are seeing here is the disrespect of the Ugandan parliament, the disrespect of the Ugandan institutions and the African institutions, the disrespect of the African people themselves. So the disrespect of the African institutions and African parliaments, representatives of the people who passed these laws, this is a disrespect by the United States and Europe. It's a disrespect, a total disrespect, disregard of the African people. Absolute arrogance is what we are experiencing today. So disrespect the African people, their institutions, their parliament, and at the same time continue to talk about institutions are the drivers of democracy. Yet you are coming in our countries and destroying our institutions. You are not respecting the laws which they are making for us. For us. These laws are not for the Americans or the Europeans. These laws are for us. So we do not see how you go about misinterpreting our laws because you have an agenda. So this is a problem which we are seeing. And so that is why the president of Uganda came out to resist. We saw the Speaker of Parliament of Ghana also came out when they were discussing this law, and it has passed in the Ghanaian Parliament, actually, the law. It is remaining with the president to sign on it. So the question here is, will President Akufo-Addo sign on the law? Because the law was passed in Parliament in Ghana. Will President Akufo-Addo sign the law in Ghana? And this is going to be the test of his Africanness. And this will continue to solidify his puppetry, whether he's an absolute puppet or he's for the African people. Of course, the doubts have already been cast on him. So will he confirm, will President Akufo-Addo go ahead to confirm our suspicions of him as a puppet by refusing to sign onto this homosexuality bill in Ghana? So that remains for us to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kwame, for that. Yeah, so we kind of covered for today. Those are the two things we wanted to bring to you, updates on Niger. So kind of trying to see the possible outcomes of the resolution and then to analyze Ruto's statement of last night. And then this, the growing anti-LGBTQ bill, and then the international institution using that to punish African countries. So we can go through, it's good timing. So if you allow me, maybe I will go through the comments. Is that okay? I'm going to put, first of all, please, Black Aaron, thank you for reminding our people here, the family, to subscribe, like, and share. That's really important. So thank you very much. So please, if you did not subscribe, please subscribe. No pressure, but hopefully you will come again. So it's better to be subscribed and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever we upload a video. And then if you want to support us as well, we have in the description section our PayPal account. You can support us through that, but even more, you can support us by sharing this video to your network. That will be really, really fulfilling. And then, it fulfills the very purpose that we are here, because we are here to bring a research-based information, knowledge to you. And then, you go out and you will not be stormed by the Western media propaganda. So you can make your own conclusion out of it, to have our own narrative as Pan-Africanists. So please do not, as our community here, our family members are here very few. So we want to disseminate and reach out as many people as possible. Please share this video. Yeah. That being said, A lot of new names I hear, new family members. Thank you very much and welcome everyone. So when we have time, me, myself and Kwame like to engage here with the family. So let's see. We have told you about our campaign. So to boycott products of the colonials like the French, US, but in general to use this hashtag. But until then, maybe Kwame, you can share the Twitter link. I'm gonna select and read comments from here. Aaron, as an Eritrean, I'm not shocked about any decision of a given African country against another fellow African country because African organizations are there to be tools for Western neocolonialism. Yeah, sadly. Okay, hello, Osie Ekwam, and Tinubu is waiting for the signal from America/Europe. He's typical president. He will disregard the rules. You know, my hope is really this thing will be reversed by the people of Nigerians themselves. No other people from the continent do not need to do anything. I mean, we really know great Nigerians who did great things in the world and in the continent. So many I have seen, you know, I try to look at different platforms. Many Nigerians are against Tinubu's action. So we really expect that you come out in your country and you go tell your president to reverse his action and condemn his action. This shouldn't come from anyone, really. You are enough to do this. Oshie continues. Professor Mahdi Sheikh, who said Niger will be scorpion to the camel, meaning Nigeria. Tinubu doesn't care about anyone, only himself. Yeah, there are a lot of things that we read since he came that are happening in Nigeria. All Europe need to do is apologize to Russia, fall on their knees and beg forgiveness and ask politely to have Russia resume energy supplies by tankers initially. Okay, yeah. Ecowas is becoming, this is CNDS, Ecowas is becoming a clown show, putting a standby force on standby. Seems they are confused. I don't see the possibility of a military attack. But with you know, we have shared with you last time, was it on Tuesday, where our friend shared. He's from Senegal. He's a very well-known. He has many followers. He's an activist. He's Senegalese, but he shared some French NATO planes actually landing in Dakar. So the force of ECOWAS might seem a clown, but with these people's help, I think they're gonna do it. I don't know. Kick them all out. Is it possible an invasion will spur revolutions in other African countries? Well, every challenge has an opportunity, so you never know. But
yeah,
of course,
absolutely. Like for the defeat of the United States, actually, the United States did not know that they would defeat it in Afghanistan. They went to remove a government, but that government again chased them out of the country, and it took 20 years. So you will not know what is going to happen in Africa. So right now, if you look at history, the only thing which we can say in this regard is that the times we are living in are not normal times. We are not living in normal times. They are extraordinarily special times that we are living in. They are very different times which we are living in. They are times of awakening. There's a lot of awakening among the people, and especially the youth. People have realized that the West is a parasite. I mean, President Museveni mentioned this a few days ago. But there's a lot of awakening. So that means that the people are likely to resist. Whenever there is an awakening among the people, then there's likely to be resistance. So that is what you saw happened even in Afghanistan. When you go to Iraq itself, also that is what happened. The United States went in with, of course, saying that they are going to take over the country very quickly, and of course they did that, but they did not anticipate what would come later. In a few months, things started blowing back, and more than 5,000 to 6,000 US soldiers died in Iraq. Of course, we understand they killed over 1 million people, but they also lost a lot. And from rumors in the corners, you cannot call what happened in Iraq a success. It was not a success. And the same thing happened in Vietnam, that they went there to invade the country and bomb it. But people with weak weapons, they didn't have much. They were able to defeat the United States in Iraq, and it ran out. So, you never know what is going to start, because they come with a lot of arrogancy. But what we understand is that it is possible that it may blow back even on Tinubu himself. If the military goes there and they defeat it, number one, they will come back and remove Tinubu. If they defeat them in Niger, if the Nigerian military is hammered very well in Niger and they die very much, people will get angry. They will come back and overthrow the Nigerian government. That is a more likely outcome of this. Or the Nigerian government, the Nigerian and Burkina and Mali could march on Abuja and take out the Nigerian government if they defeat the Ecowas contingent over there. So it will not be very smooth. So to answer your question, there's nothing that is off the table. These are all likely outcomes, because everywhere where imperialism has gone to fight, it has overestimated its ability. That is what we are seeing even in Ukraine, that they thought that they would go in Ukraine and support Ukraine. You hear of the counter-offensive, which Ukraine was supposed to make against Russia. Terribly failed. And now they are contemplating, they have been fighting with Ukraine. America has been now, and Europeans have been quarreling with Ukraine about the strategy on how to approach. They are saying, Zelensky is not following their instructions. And Zelensky is also accusing them of not giving him weapons he's asking for, because he's asking for F-16 fighter jets, and they're not giving it to him. So they are now fighting within. And of course, this shows that things are not going as planned, even though the United States is working directly with Ukraine, giving it intelligence, using its satellites, the United States military advising on what to do. And of course, some people have said that the United States is already inside fighting within, but not in areas where their soldiers can easily be captured. So they are already inside. So this is what is happening, that things are happening that are unlikely outcomes. And then there's another one who asked a related question like that, his fear is that if they see what is happening in Ukraine, that they may leave Ukraine and come to Africa. I think that if they leave Ukraine and come to Africa, it will be a show of it will be a sign that they have been defeated, and it will be a very bad signal for the rest of the African people and the rest of the people of the world. This would strengthen all those ones who are fighting against the United States if they leave Ukraine and come out. So I really don't see that happening. What I see is that they are likely to remain in Ukraine. If they attempt to attack Niger, they are likely to remain in Ukraine. They are likely to remain there to show that they can fight, but to show also that they have not been defeated in Ukraine. But if they happen to do it to focus on Africa, then that is likely to strengthen everyone who's fighting against them, because the Africans will see this as a declared war of colonization on the African continent. And because that is what they are fearing very much even right now, and that is why they want to hide behind Ecowas. So this is the situation, this is the scenario, different scenarios which we are seeing that are likely to come out of this situation.
Thank you, Kwame. So African says LGBT is a way distracting peoples of a nation or the world from main important needs of human beings. Few examples are Black, Latino, Asian people's rights, women rights, and equality, economic issues. So all these are distractions. Is that what you're saying, Africa? Okay. Somebody said, I don't need my enemies to bend on a knee to me, meaning to ask for apology. Just I need them to go back, to back off, piece off. Yeah. And FP of Canada here. What else is French working class, after all, do riot against their own government. Yeah, they do. Yeah, you're right, Michael.
Absolutely, absolutely. We see that. We see that. We've been seeing that. We've been seeing the yellow jackets on the streets
I think
against
the French
all.
people are one of the rebellious people in Europe. I mean, most other European countries are like robots. You don't see that. I mean, there are some, but the people in France are different, I think. And sometimes I see because there are many Africans. Okay. Obama tried to shift NATO or US foreign policy forces against China, and in Africa, neocon forces in State Department and Senate power defied him and hit Russia via Ukraine destruction. Whew, somebody agrees Africa is the new Middle East. Really? No, not yet. We can prevent it. I mean, there are a lot of conflicts in the continent anyway, but yeah, I think that's it. Indigenous people in Canada are still colonized and are natural allies. The generals, Sende says, this one is interesting. Sende says the generals in Ecowas have been working together in school training and missions. They are friends who know each other well. Easier for them to topple their governments than fight each other. You mean the generals? Okay, all of them. Okay, it says also I could be wrong. In Kenya's Business Cloud said in Kenya, 60% of the economy is owned by the West. Yeah, a lot of Indians as well. Kenya is not a free country. We are under pressure to condemn and support the West. Otherwise, we risk losing billions. That makes sense. But until when? Yeah. Hello, family. Hello, Kagoma. Yeah, great idea. Well done. Boycott colonial businesses. Yeah, I think that's it for us. We have to leave, but we would like to tell you that we are going to start a new program over the weekend to recap all what's happening, because there are many things happening, and we just select the major ones. But again, we feel like most of the things we have to own our own narrative on each and everything. So we are thinking of weekend afternoon, so like Eastern African time or Central European time around 4 o'clock. Let us hear from you if you have any suggestion over the weekend. What is the best time? That will be good.
Yeah. What time? Yeah, what time we should do it? Yes, absolutely.
Definitely not at night, but in the afternoon. Yeah, we are thinking Eastern African time around 5 o'clock or Central European time 4 o'clock, something like that. But let us hear from you. For Ghana, it will be early afternoon. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend as well. And bye-bye. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. And share this video, share the link when this streaming is over as well. Anything, Kwame, from you?
Yeah, I think let us support whatever we are doing. I saw somebody who said that the Black people should stop the hashtag and protest. They should take real action. I think that at this point, I think the African people are ready, and I think we will go step by step. If you look at the civil rights movement, it did not start immediately. It started, by people having conversations and showing this content about the system. And this is what we are seeing also that is happening. People are discontented with the system. And of course, actions have started. That is why you are seeing those calls are happening and people are supporting them. So we are also doing our part. You heard what we mentioned here. There is possibility of mobilizing African youth to go and support in Niger. There's a possibility that is coming also. Once Ecowas says they have started a war, a lot of African youth are willing to, take up themselves and go in and support Niger. So these things are coming slowly. But what we can do now, we can do it and we will do it. So that is why we are asking you to go out there and support that hashtag. You can go to my channel and go to the channel on Twitter, Kwame Gonza. You can look for Kwame Gonza on Twitter and you look for that hashtag, boycott colonial businesses. Boycott colonial businesses. I'm putting that again in the in the chat section, boycott colonial businesses. So you can go to Twitter and search for that hashtag, or you search for my name, Kwame Gonza, and you will find it. So we want to thank you once again for supporting the channel. We are so glad that you are here with us. And you are able to push us forward. You are able to energize us. You are able to give us strength. You have supported us so much. And we are very glad. Continue to do the same thing so that we can all contribute towards the liberation of our mother continent. And of course, all Black people and African people across the world, all African people across the world can get the respect they deserve on the global international stage. We thank you once again and have a good day, good night, and good morning everywhere, depending on where you are across the globe. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye. By the way, I want to say this. I mean, usually they say that it's a protocol after once you close it, you don't have to bring anything. But Senda said, let me read it out. This was the toughest program I have seen you, Mahlet and Kwame, host. You mean the subject we are kind of off? Like, yeah, I just asked him if he answered, but there's a lot of disappointment, that I can be honest. And from Kwame's side as well. Yeah, we really did not like how the way things are developing. But just to share our honesty here. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.